I guess I'm just saying it for that so that you guys know.
Hi everyone, welcome to the SYA Admissions Google Hangout. I'm Kate Martell, I'm the SYA Admissions Marketing Manager, and tonight I have joining me Emily and Donna. Do you want to introduce yourselves?
Sure, I'll go first. Hi, I'm Emily. I'm the Marketing and Communications Coordinator here at SYA.
And I'm Donna Fitzgerald. I'm an Assistant Director of Admissions at SYA.
And joining us tonight are some very special guests all the way from Beijing. We have our SYA China Resident Director and some students. Hilde and John and Amy, do you want to introduce yourselves?
Sure. Hi, my name is Hilde Becker. I'm the Resident Director of SYA China.
My name is John, and I'm a senior at Oakton High School in Northern Virginia.
Hi, I'm Amy. I'm a junior, and in America I attend Providence Day School in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Great, thanks guys. So thank you guys for joining us. It is currently about 8:30 in the morning for you, so we appreciate that. So for those of you joining us tonight, we are going to have some Q&A with our students and resident director in China, and then we'll also be able to take some questions for you guys. So if you want to put in the chat box in the Q&A any questions that you have that you'd like us to try and answer, we will do our best to get to all of your questions. And we'll do that at the end, and then Donna will have some deadline reminders at the end for our upcoming application and scholarship deadlines. So really quickly, Donna, for those of you who are just finding out about SYA now, who maybe haven't heard about us before, Donna, do you want to quickly just give a brief overview of SYA?
Yeah, definitely. So School Year Abroad is a year-long study abroad program with a homestay for juniors and seniors in high school. And each year we take approximately 60 students to attend each one of our schools in China, France, Italy, and Spain. Tonight we're going to concentrate on SYA China, but our schools in I just will let you know our schools in France and Spain do have a 2-year high school language requirement because classes there are taught in the host language except for math and English. But you can attend SYA China and SYA Italy as a beginner. So we like to let students know that. And we can, we'll go over some of the deadlines later. But so as long as you're in good academic standing at your school and you really have the adventurous spirit and you want to take this leap, we hope you'll apply.
Great, thank you. So we're going to send it back to China and have you guys tell us a little bit more. Hilde, do you want to just give us a brief introduction about yourself, how long you've been with SYA, and talk about
Sure, I'd be happy to do so. My name is Hilde Becker. I'm from Trier in Germany, and the reason that many Chinese locals know about that city is because Karl Marx was born there. I have lived in China for more than 20 years, and I've been working with SYA for 14 years. I would, perhaps it's I would like to give you sort of a short introduction of our school, what we are all about, and what we're trying to accomplish here. This year was a very, very special year for us because we just celebrated our 20th anniversary of SYA China here in Beijing. And that, of course, was a very, very special occasion that was only highlighted by the fact that there was another historic moment that took place here at our school, and that was the historic visit, the meeting between Michelle Obama, the First Lady, and the Chinese First Lady, who met here at our school. We should know that we are hosted here by a Chinese high school. It's called Middle School number 2, and we are literally downtown Beijing. And as far as to the best of my knowledge, we are still the only American high school in China. And what is really special is that we are located here in a Chinese high school. In other words, there are lots of opportunities for students to meet and get to know other Chinese high school students, which is the unique opportunity. If you ask me how to characterize our school, I think what first comes to mind is, of course, language, right? We have an excellent language program, and I would say that even in these 9 months that students are with us, that they learn the equivalent of roughly 4 to 5 years of Chinese if they would take Chinese language classes in the United States. So that's really impressive. But one should not forget that language is just a tool. So our larger purpose here is, of course, cultural immersion. It's developing cultural intelligence. It's we hope that our students take advantage of the very unique opportunity they're having here. They're living with a Chinese host family. We're downtown Beijing. So the entire curriculum, the entire academic year has China, China's politics, history, economics at its center. And so we think that is a very unique opportunity for students to immerse themselves. Typically, students who are attracted to SYA China are the kind of students who are adventurous because, well, it is challenging. It is challenging leaving your familiar environment for 9 months. You leave your family, you leave your school, you leave your friends, and then you travel thousands of miles and literally throw yourself into an unknown environment, and that is truly challenging. But it is also equally rewarding. We encourage students to take positive risks, to try out new things. People who join us are students who are willing to embrace the unknown. They are flexible. They will gain confidence, worldliness, and so much more.
Great. Thank you so much. Yeah, definitely we need to keep in mind students that are passionate and willing to take a little bit of risk, maybe. So Amy and John, if you want to introduce yourselves again and tell us again where you're from, and if you could talk a little bit about why you decided to apply to SYA.
I'll go first. My name is John again. I'm from Northern Virginia. I go to Oakton High School, which is a public school. I heard about SYA only like a couple of weeks before the deadline, just from a family friend, actually. And they were just to kind of explain how it was for them, and I really got like a first-hand experience about a friend telling me that I knew about how much it was meaningful to them rather than just kind of from a teacher, which I thought was really nice to hear. And at first I was kind of like doubtful, like I felt comfortable where I was, but as I thought more about it, I realized like, you know, like in 10 years, like what will really matter more to me or what will kind of give me more benefits, like if I just kind of social events in my senior year of high school or just like a life-changing year in China. So I thought, there's not many opportunities, at least especially in high school, that you can kind of get such a different experience and such a life-changing experience. And I thought I might as well just kind of take advantage of it and kind of the moment I just applied. And yeah, that's just kind of how it happened for me.
And you're happy you did, right?
Oh, I'm so grateful. Like sometimes I think back, like, what would I be doing in America? And I'm glad I'm here.
I'm Amy Stillis. I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina. I go to Providence Day School, which is an independent school. And I heard about SYA through my head of global studies director. He told me there was this program and you could live in China for 9 months with a host family, but while still attending high school. And I thought this idea was really interesting. And at first, when I heard it, I wasn't immediately, oh, I'm going to apply, but I started talking to my family about it. And then I talked about it so much with them, they said, oh, so you want to apply, right? And I said, well, I guess I do. I couldn't get the idea out of my head. And I was taking Chinese at my high school, but it wasn't getting me where I wanted to be. You know, I thought, you know, I really want to pursue Chinese, and China, actually being in China is the best environment. So I applied, and here I am. I'm definitely glad that I did.
Great. Awesome. So what's your favorite part of studying abroad so far? What's been maybe one of your favorite memories or one of your favorite things?
All right. Well, favorite things. I took a year of Chinese in America, and I realized that this is so different. Like being here in China, actually being here physically, kind of brings the textbooks and all the images and things we learned in class in the classroom. It kind of brings that to life, and you can see it in front of you, which is really, really amazing. I think that one of the most favorite parts for me is each person being able to, being in the city, you're allowed to go and see things that you wouldn't be able to see in America. Like in America, we all see the same textbook, and our view of China is all identical because we all look at the same materials. But here in China, with all this free time, you can actually go and see things for yourself, and that makes every single person's experience in China unique. And I think that the opportunities we have to do that are so amazing. Just one of my thoughts about it.
I think one of my favorite things is the host family aspect because I learn a lot of Chinese in school, but then also I get to go home and practice with my family. And being with a host family, it's also a really good environment. If I make a mistake, it's okay. It's not a test. And by making mistakes, you learn so much. And I also learn from my host family words that I wouldn't learn in class and everything. And also, the host family is one of my favorite parts because I feel like I have a really good support group. You know, besides your SYA, all of you Americans, you're together every day during class. But when I go home, I really feel like my host family is my real family. And you know, I love them. They love me, and that's been really good. And they help me get through it. You know, if I'm sad or something, they'll help me. And I just feel like I have a really good support system, and that's one of my favorite things about China so far.
That's great. That was actually going to be one of my next questions, was talking about your host family and kind of the really important part that they play at SYA. John, do you want to talk a little bit about your host family?
Yeah, I think Amy said a lot of what I was going to say. It's a really nice experience for me personally. I think Amy say the same thing. It's just extra learning, extra immersion. You learn a lot of like relatable things that you need to learn, like applicable terms, just things like that. Also, just being around the dinner table talking about things that matter to you and that matter to them, which I think is really important. You're not just being taught what the teacher wants to teach you and what they think will be relatable for you, but you're talking about what you think is personally relatable. And I think that makes it all the more easier to understand. You're living in like a home, just like from night till morning, you're in a completely this a bubble with just you. And I think it's really helpful to just kind of go out there with your family, be yourself, kind of have a chat around the dinner table. And this kind of daily interactions really make it's just a completely new dimension all on its own, which is really nice.
It is really, and it's nice because you know, when you're here, you don't want to just be with Americans all the time, and being in a host family is already a given. You won't always be with Americans, so it's kind of like you automatically have Chinese friends, you know, but it's even better because it's a family. And I know it's just really nice. I feel like I can spend the whole day just talking with my host family. That's probably because I love to talk a lot. But they're really nice. And there's something else I was going to say, but I forgot. But yeah, they're really good. I love the host family.
May I add something to this? I think the point that Amy and John are making is that the host family obviously is an important, crucial part of the entire SYA experience. There is simply no better way to break down cultural barriers than living with a Chinese family. There is an incredible amount of cultural capital, cultural knowledge that is transmitted through the host family experience. And this being said, you know, I'm going to be fair, it can also be challenging. Because particularly in the beginning, right? I mean, after the sort of the honeymoon is over, after the first couple of weeks, right? I mean, when the students begin to realize, my God, what have I done? I'm really here in China, right? I'm living with a Chinese host family, and of course, after 4 weeks, right? The ties between the student and the host family are not quite yet the same, of course, as the ties with their parents in the United States. So it can be challenging. But if students are willing to embark on that adventure and to embrace that experience, they will have an amazing return after a relatively short amount of time. It is really sort of in the second semester that students will be really, really comfortable. They call Beijing home. They call their host family Ba and Ma. And it's very endearing, really, to see the relationships as they develop and strengthen day by day. oftentimes I have students when they come back, and they're quite, I would say at least 50% of our students come back to China, and then they give me a call and they say, you know, the first thing they did when they hit the ground in Beijing was really to call up their mom and dad here in China. So that is the host family experience. It is a lifelong, or can be a lifelong relationship for the students, and can be an incredible nurturing resource for the students.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. I was just emailing with a student in France the other day who said she had gone to a conference in Geneva with Model UN for a few days, and she said, I had a great time, but it was so nice to go home. And by home, she meant with her host family. And Donna, I know your daughter, too, went to SYA China and still has a relationship with her host family.
She does. I should have mentioned that I'm also the parent of an SYA China alum. And my daughter, Karina, had an amazing experience, as Hilde knows, and has returned to China a couple of times since. And before she even arrives, I mean, she gets in touch with her ba, is the one that's better with the social media, and she lets her ba know that she's going to be in town. And I had the opportunity to meet them last summer and get together with them for lunch, Peking duck amongst a lot of other foods. And it was just so wonderful. They were so warm and loving, and even though I do not speak Mandarin, I could understand them just from their body language and their love, you know, for Karina, what they were saying to me. So they're really wonderful, wonderful people.
Nice.
Our host families are. They're great.
Thanks.
I remember actually when an American family came over. My host mom saw my American mom and I together, and later my host mom told me that she was jealous of my American mom. It's just kind of funny. They can see how my American mom left after visiting me. She had seen, you know, how much my host mom loved me, and right before she left to go back to America, she told me, Amy, don't forget, I'm the most important mom. You know, it's okay that you're like. And I told my host mom that.
On a related note, it is also a wonderful opportunity for families to meet across continents that otherwise wouldn't stand a chance to get to know each other.
Yeah, it's wonderful. So I want to go back to one thing, John, you had said before about having some free time. What do you guys do when you're not in class? Because school year abroad, yes, we are a school. But do you guys have the opportunity to participate in extracurriculars? Maybe do you do something that you did at home, or are you trying something new this year that's different?
Yeah, I can go first on that. In the beginning of the year, before I had really a chance to know Beijing and get around a lot, one of the good things I really like about being in a Chinese school is that there are students there that we can play together. There's a field outside. In the beginning of the year, I was really into like playing soccer with the students a lot, which is really fun. And then kind of as I expanded and knew more about Beijing, I found a Kung Fu school, a couple, maybe about an hour or so, a little far from where I live, but allowed me to kind of keep up the Kung Fu that I've been learning in America, and I got a really good chance to be a single foreigner with a lot of Chinese kids. Just got to play around, talk, train together. And also, another thing I do in America is breakdancing, and I was just kind of walking around, kind of touring the bird's nest, and I found a group of Chinese guys that were just kind of dancing out on the street, and now it's kind of a regular thing that we go to. And recently I found, through friends that I've made in China, just kind of being with them, I found a dancing studio, which I can go to as well. And I think all this is to say, like, in China, especially when you're new and it's kind of easy to be shy and just stay where you're comfortable, I think one of the things that really changes your experience and makes it a lot better is just to kind of put yourself out there and not wait for an invitation, to just kind of not wait for someone to say, oh, you want to come do this with us, but rather go out and find the places where you can get involved. Because I think, especially in the extracurricular dimension, is kind of like you just kind of force yourself in, and all of a sudden you make friends that you could never have made before otherwise.
Yeah, that's great advice.
Yeah.
For me, I was kind of similar in the beginning of the year. I love soccer, and I was worried that when I came to China, I wouldn't be able to keep up with it. But in the first weeks, you saw local Arfajong, the Chinese students outside, and we played with them. I think sports is a great way to get to know people, because you don't necessarily need to be speaking all the time. I mean, my Chinese definitely improved. But in the beginning, you know, just playing is also like a language of its own, so that was really fun. And now my weeks are really busy actually. Every Tuesday after school I go to Chinese water coloring class. On Wednesdays I learn how to play the erhu, it's the Chinese violin. And then after I go teach English, I volunteer to teach English to some elderly citizens in the community. And then afterwards, it's really neat. I can go to their house after class, and they'll invite us over for dinner. And that's a great way. You just taught them some English, but you can speak Chinese with them and learn. It's different because they're really old, so you can learn a lot of different aspects of Chinese culture that way. And on Thursday, I teach a little girl English. She's about 7. And so that's also really nice.
Wow. You guys are busy.
I like to do
That's great advice too, John, about going out and seeking the things that interest you and pursuing those when you're abroad. For those of you who are just joining our chat, if you want to put any questions in the chat box in the Q&A on the side, we're talking with Amy and John, who are SYA China students, and our SYA China Resident Director Hilde Becker. And we'll be chatting with them for a few more minutes, and then they'll be asking you any questions. They'll be answering any questions that you might have to ask them. And Donna, your daughter played the erhu too, right? Briefly.
Yes, briefly. Yes, we own it now. We have an erhu.
You have one
in my house. Yes.
So
no one plays it anymore.
well, you can always take it back.
I could. Yeah.
Our next question, I wanted to ask Hilde, if you want to talk a little bit about one of the things that makes SYA China unique is winter room travel. Do you want to talk a little bit about what that is, where you'll be going? Sorry, Amy and John, if it's a spoiler alert, if you don't know where you're headed just yet, you get a sneak peek at the itinerary. And a little bit about where you go and how that ties into what you are learning in the classroom.
Okay, our legendary winter room. So, trips are an important part of our programs. See, I think that most people assume that China is this uniform entity. We have a tendency to talk about the Chinese, or we say China, as if there wouldn't be any geographic, cultural, political diversity at all. And of course, that is far from the truth. China is a highly diverse country. We have 56 different ethnic groups. There's a tremendous cultural diversity, and this is sort of something that the students really discover when we are traveling. Beijing is not representative of China as a whole. Beijing is the capital. But the remaining parts of China, there are huge differences. In winter, just after the Chinese New Year, which the New Year we of course get to celebrate twice. After Chinese New Year, we embark on normally a 2-week-long trip to the southwestern part of China, and into a province called Yunnan. And it's an ethnically highly diverse province. There are more than 26 ethnic minorities that are living in Yunnan, and I would say that generally our trips are characterized where they have a common theme, and that is ethnic minorities and their culture. So generally speaking, we will travel to remote places. Sometimes we hike from village to village. That means there are also rural homestays involved in that, which really sort of allows the students to engage with China in a very personal way, and to develop a very personal relationship with locals while they're on the road. Yeah.
That's great. Exciting. Thank you. Yeah, that is exciting. One last question, and then we're going to get to some of our questions in the Q&A. Amy and John, if you had a piece of advice for someone who is considering SYA, what would you tell them?
Considering SYA, I would kind of, I guess I would say like, where do you imagine yourself in 10 years, and what use of this next year of high school would be better, would be like would help you more, and what kind of activity during this next year would you kind of value more, be more grateful when you look back on it? Because a lot of times you only realize the decisions or things that happened kind of in hindsight. So if you, this is what I did personally. I just kind of imagined myself maybe 10 or 20 years down the line, and I kind of thought to myself, what if I spent my senior year in high school in the school that I'd been there for 3 years, would that be more meaningful to me, or would it be more meaningful to just be spending a year in a foreign country? And I think it's a pretty obvious answer. The only thing that's holding me back is, am I willing to do that, and am I willing to kind of just leap out and just walk into like thin air kind of. So I guess just kind of, what do you think is going to be more meaningful for you in the next year, and then based off of that, that's how I make my decision.
Great. Yeah, we agree with you.
Yeah, mine's kind of similar. I would just say, just do it. I mean, 9 months, I don't know. I feel like some people are nervous because, oh, I'm missing a whole year of high school. But for me, 9 months in America, missing homecoming or something, that's not a big deal. You know, you're in China. And one thing people said when I was deciding, they're like, oh, why not just wait till college to go study abroad? You know, people do that. I said, well, why would I wait? You know, I'm a little young, but I have this amazing opportunity right now. You know, I don't know why I would wait till later. And I haven't regretted it since. And if there's any bit of doubt, just go for it. You know, I always kind of think I'd rather regret doing something maybe than regret not having done it. You know, because I don't know, it's been the greatest experience, and I would just urge everyone to, I would just urge you to just take a leap of faith and do it, because it's definitely the most rewarding experience ever. It's not, you know, it's not the easiest thing in the world, but nothing that's, you know, worth doing is that easy. So I think that my biggest advice would just do it.
Just do it. No, you're right. You make a good point. Emily, let's see.
Yeah, we've got some great questions going on right now. Hilde, this question might be for you. You have some students asking about what level classes you're placed into in Chinese when you first get there. And maybe Amy and John, you can talk about the initial shock of being thrown into classes that are taught in Chinese and things like that. We have a lot of questions about first impressions.
Okay, why don't I start with the Chinese language classes? Students typically take anything between 10 to 12 hours of language instruction per week. And at the beginning of the year, there is a language placement exam. And that is nothing to worry about. Students should be really be relaxed about that placement exam. It's just an initial assessment of your language ability. And then depending, each year the situation is different. Sometimes we have more beginners and more advanced students, or vice versa. But we will make sure that each student is placed in a class where he or she will be challenged just right. And so we have different levels of Chinese. This year, for example, we have 5 different levels of Chinese. And if after a month or so in class instruction, if your instructor feels that you might be better placed in another level, then that's no problem at all. We're very flexible. Then we will take the student out of that class and place him or her in the appropriate class.
Great. Yep.
And I remember
No, sorry. I was just going to say, just as a reminder to everyone that's watching, China and Italy do not have language requirements. Our France and Spain program do require 2 years of French or Spanish to apply. But SYA China and Italy do not. So sorry, Amy, do you want to talk a little bit about how far you've come learning the language since you've been at SYA China?
Oh, sure, yeah, and I'll piggyback off of what you just said. You know, if you're a beginner, don't worry, because a lot of our classmates came without knowing any, and I'm so proud of them. I can see them in the halls speaking Chinese, and you really come a long way. But yeah, in regards of Chinese class and improvement, I was really nervous for the Chinese placement test because I saw on our schedule before we took off, looking at the itinerary. Okay, the first thing we do is like take a Chinese test. And
No pressure.
but my advice, don't be worried about it at all. Really, really don't be. It's nothing scary. And for me, I placed in 4 in the beginning, and I was really nervous before I came. Oh, should I be studying Chinese like every single day during the summer? And I'll be honest, I didn't. But I mean, if you want to do it, it's fine. But also, if you don't, it's okay too. But it's a good idea to brush up. But so I was placed in 4, and then now I'm in 5. And one thing that is cool about the classes is you can always move if you feel like you want to go up. You can always move and do that. So I was in 4, and I really decided, I think I'm comfortable, and I really want to push myself, and I really want to go up to the next level. And when I leave China, I want to know that I learned the most I could. So that was one thing that pushed me into 5. And the Chinese teachers were very supportive, and they really help you in that decision. And you can really see, and again, tying back to the host family, my host family will tell me, oh, I remember when you first came, and how your Chinese is now, and you can definitely see how much you improve. And I think the Chinese teachers here are the best Chinese teachers I've ever come across. They're really the best at what they do, and I love them all. Like even outside of class, I'll really miss them when I go back.
Oh, that's really sweet.
Just for me, I would have the same advice for Amy as the placement test. It's really just a placement test to see where you are at that moment. So if you're trying to like study and do the best you can, of course studying is good for a test, but this is a placement test, and they're just trying to see where you are and where your level is, so they can accurately place you for the year. And yes, you can kind of adjust in and out of the different classes, but I think they do a pretty good job of placing you in the classes you are. And you're not being thrown to a class all on your own. You're being thrown to a class with others who are also being thrown to a class with you, so you can kind of share the experiences, share the struggles, share like the victories. I think it's really fun. It's really amazing to be like, oh, I know this word, or like this kind of language is like a really great thing. And what Ms. Becker said is really true. It is a tool. So you're learning not just to like get an A on the next test, but you're learning to be able to communicate better with the world that you're surrounded by. So I think that really the Chinese language classes are much more than just a class. It's kind of your learning skills and communication skills that you can kind of use in the world that you're just living in every day. And I think it's really helpful. And just, it's just really amazing, and I really like it. It's really fun.
Great.
My teachers are really good, and our classes are small too. So that I love that you can have more attention. But because the classes are so small, it's kind of like an advisory group. We have solidarity, like we're Wuban, like we're class 5, like it's kind of like a close knit group, and so it's nice like that. And the teachers are always, it's really good. So in America, my class is like 16 kids, and you could kind of hide in the corner if you wanted to, but here you're in like a desk, a big rectangle. So, and with small classes, if you haven't spoken at all, the teacher will call on you. And I think that's really what you need if you want to really learn. You need to be pushed, and they really help you. If they see you haven't talked in a while, they'll make you say it. If you're struggling with the sentence, they'll make you say it until you say it correctly. So that's a really good help.
Great. Thanks, guys.
Hey. John and Amy, I have another question for you. Someone's asking, I know you talked about all of your extracurricular activities, but what do you do in your free time, and how well do you feel like you've gotten to know the city?
That's a good question. Free time, there's not a lot of free time, but part of the reason for that is also school, but also because you kind of get into a rhythm, and extracurricular activities kind of work into your schedule eventually. And I've kind of realized that, oh, this is my time, even though it's time I choose to be doing something. It kind of takes away from free time. So it's like on the weekend, my weekend is basically free, but I kind of block out time for the extracurriculars that I do, so there's less kind of free time, if that makes sense. But when I'm not doing any of the extracurriculars that I like to do, maybe I'll just kind of find a group of friends to go do something that I've never done. Or we have a great teacher who helps us with extracurricular activities. So say you're not sure where you want to go, or you're not really used to the city yet, you can just ask our teacher and say, is there anywhere that you would recommend that I go this weekend? Or you can ask your friends, places that they've gone before. I think one of the great things to do in free time is go to a place you've never been, because in a new city, there's almost always a place that you haven't been before. So I think that's a really great use of free time in a new city.
Great.
Yeah.
I can piggyback off that. On the weekends, yeah, if you find free time, one thing I like to do, we like to do is just go and explore a place we've never been before. And you asked how would you feel like you know the city. I really realized that, you know, so when my parents came, my American family, when they came to China, when we used the subway, I knew how to use it. You know, you just look at the map and you know how to use it. You just get used to that. And my family was like, whoa. You know, because we don't have the subway in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's not for that's not what we're used to. So for them to see me using the subway, like I knew where I was going, there's no problem. That was really good, and they were excited. Like, okay, we don't have to worry about you because we know you can get around. And that's one thing. You know, if you want to go somewhere new you haven't been before, it's not an issue. Especially after being here so long, you're used to the subway. You know what buses go where, and it's really good. And also, Beijing people are really polite or really kind. So if you don't know, you can just ask someone, and that's another way to practice your language, and they'll help you. So.
That's true.
So yeah, just finding a place that's always fun to do on the weekends. Beijing is a huge city. It's so big, so there's always places to go.
And lots of stuff to do all the time, I'm sure.
Let's see. Hilda, this question is probably for you. We have a lot of questions about host families. Hilda just talked a little bit about the process, maybe how you select your host families and how you match them with students. There's a lot of questions about if there's siblings, if there's kids that are the same age as our students.
If I could just chime in really quick first, Hilda, I'll mention that each of our schools has a host family coordinator who it's their job, it's their passion, it's their life's work to make sure that we have good host families for our students and that they're good matches between the two. So Hilda, do you want to talk about what that's like at SYA China?
Sure. As I already said earlier, right, we have a 20-year history. So we have an incredible network of host families. We're known by now here, at least in our district. And so host families oftentimes approach us and they say, well, we heard that you have this great program and that there's the opportunity for us to host an American student. You see, the Chinese host families, as China has been opening up, they're more and more curious also about sort of, well, how would that be like to host an American kid? And oftentimes the host families also have their own children, but that's not necessarily the case. So when students apply to SYA China, there's a very detailed host family questionnaire, and that I would ask students really to fill out carefully, because in that questionnaire, students can indicate their preferences. Do they want a host family with a sibling, with a younger sibling, with an older sibling? Do they want empty nesters? Do they want a host family without any siblings? So all of these kind of requests we can accommodate because we have a large pool of host families to choose from. Now, when it comes to matching the students with the families, I would like to highlight that this is more of an art than a science. And you just over the beginning and once the applications are coming in, and I get to read the student files. What I will do together with our host family coordinator is we read the student files. We try to get a good sense of the student. Okay, what does the student like? What kind of student is it? What does he or she prefer? What kind of extracurricular activities is he or she normally engaged in? And what is the personality of that student? And once we have a sort of a better sense of that particular student, then the host family coordinator and I will get together, and really over several weeks we will sort of based on the knowledge we have about the host families, many of whom have hosted for many years already. So we have a good understanding of those families. Now we know more about the student, and then the two of us we'll have discussions about, you know, what we think is, okay, so this student should be in this family and so forth. And of course, you know, maybe an initial decision has been made, then we will reconsider. So it's a long and rather complicated, convoluted process.
Complicated, but the point being thoughtful, that a lot of thought does go into matching our families with our students to make sure that they have a good match, so that they have the experience like Amy and John are having with their host families.
Definitely. Yeah, I can back this back up. I remember when I was applying, I remember filling out the application, saying what things I preferred. And I remember I had a specific detail I was kind of nervous about, and I just really want to make sure that it was going to be okay when I came. And Miss Becker remembers today, and I just know that she really, and our John Lasher, they together really work hard on, they really pay attention on what you want. And I think they've done a great job matching us with host families, because, you know, so far I know a lot of us haven't had one problem. I get along so well with them, but I know personally that that's because they really care, and they really pay attention to your application and what you say you want.
And I know that this is the case in a lot of our, I want to say all of our countries, that a lot of our host families have been hosting for years because we've been around for so long. Sometimes we even have multi-generational host families. So parents now who, when they were teenagers, their parents hosted an SYA student, and now that they have their own families, they're hosting an SYA student. So the host families are used to hosting students. They kind of know what it's like, and they know the cycle of what students go through when they get to China through the end of the year, and they're prepared for that, and that helps students adjust as well.
And they know SYA.
And they know SYA.
They know what they're doing on a daily basis and how busy you are.
Right, and what the academics are like and what the expectations are like.
That's true.
Go ahead, John.
There are instances, I think, that new families come into the host family kind of cycle, and I'm an example of the first student, but I would say that it's very clear that every family is very qualified, and even though it's their first year for my family, I feel right at home, and I feel like they've done a really good job of taking care of me, you know, giving me a little milk and fruit every night at the same time, which has been really nice for me. I love the fruit and I love the milk. It's so good. And so I think that even like the first year's families have done, at least for me, have done a really good job. And even though it's maybe their first year, they're all very they're well picked to be host families, and they're also well picked to be matched. So I think that combination very rarely ends up in any problems at all.
Great. Well, we're going to have to start wrapping up. Amy and John, any final thoughts? Hilda, any final thoughts?
Final thoughts, if you want to have a unique experience, if you want to have an adventure, then just jump into the cold water and just do it.
Yeah.
You know, when I came to China in the 1980s, I was a college student. I was a little bit older than the two of them here. But it sounds like a cliche, but there is really no better way to say it. It has been the best experience of my life when I did that, and most importantly, it really impacted my future decisions. It impacted my worldview, and hence I really do think it is important for young people in particular in this globalized world to have that kind of experience, to live and study in a totally different culture. So yes.
Jump in.
Yeah. There are two things I would say, just as final comments, would be like one, like as Ms. Becker is saying, like what is going to be more meaningful for you? Like honestly, just think about that. In high school, you've already been in the same school for 3 or 2 years. What do you think is going to be more meaningful to you, and are you willing to do that? And once you're here, just kind of jump in and don't wait for invitations. Just kind of force yourself in, and that really just makes the experience much more unique. I think even while you're in China, it's still very possible to stay in a kind of American bubble where you're only communicating with your family, going straight from school to home and doing homework. And of course, you'll get a lot of immersion and experience, but just to kind of make that unique experience 10 times, 1,000 times better, I think you can just force yourself out of this amazing city. Don't wait for invitations. Don't wait for anyone to ask you to go with you, but push yourself and kind of find ways to make it city your own. And I think that's the thing that's made it unique, especially unique experience for me while I've been here in Beijing.
Great.
Yeah, I feel like a Nike commercial. Just do it, you know. But it's
I love it.
this is an experience I will never forget, and I haven't regretted it 1 second so far. It's really just amazing. You know, we learn Chinese in the classroom, but then we have so many opportunities to practice it throughout the day. You're really in China. You know, you aren't sitting in class in America going, oh, what's China like? Well, you know, you're here. You know what it's like. You really see it firsthand. So it's been an amazing experience. So I would definitely apply.
Great. Donna, do you want to just give a shout out about dates and deadlines and things like that?
So our students are applying for either of our merit scholarships or Halsey scholarship. The application deadline is Monday, February 2nd. And if you are applying just without the merit scholarships, the deadline is February 16th. So those dates are coming up.
And February 16th is also the deadline if you are applying for financial aid. We'll point out that you can apply for our scholarships and for financial aid. You can apply for both. So make sure that if you're applying for the scholarship, your application is in by the 2nd of February, and that your financial aid application is in by the 16th of February. Emily will put out on our chat, if she hasn't already, how to contact us. If you have questions that we haven't been able to answer this evening because we've run out of time, and as always, if you have any questions, you can go on our website, SYA.org. You can contact the admissions team at any time, or you can always chat us in our little chat box on our website anytime that we are open. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, everyone in Beijing. Yes,
so great to see all of you in Beijing.
yes, thank you so much for waking up early and for talking with us this morning. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Our pleasure.
Awesome. Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.